I was organizing the pantry when she asked. A Tuesday afternoon. The rain had just begun. Soft gray light came through the kitchen window. My wife, Elena, stood in the doorway. She held a stack of our mail. She smiled a gentle, practiced smile. "You know," she said, "I worry about you. All these bills, this paperwork, it's so much stress." I placed a can of tomatoes on the shelf. I aligned the label to face out. "I handle it fine," I said. My voice was quiet. "It usually is." "Of course you do," she said. She stepped closer. "But we're a team. Let me help just for a little while. My sister, Maran, is brilliant with this stuff." Maran, her older sister, a financial advisor or a wealth manager. The title changed. "What stuff?" I asked. "The tedious things," Elena said. She waved the mail. "Budgets, statements, tax documents. I've already spoken to her. She's happy to look everything over for free for family." I looked at my hands. They were clean. A small scar on my left thumb from a long ago repair job. "If you think it's best," I said. "I do," she said. She kissed my forehead. "It's one less thing for you to worry about." That was the start. It felt like care. It felt like relief. I am a quiet man. I was a machinist for 32 years. I liked the precision, the clear rules of measurement. I retired 2 years ago. Elena still worked part-time. At a gallery. She had an eye for art. She came from a different world than me. I knew that. It never mattered before. A week later, Maran came for dinner. She brought a bottle of expensive wine. She wore a cashmere sweater. She examined our home with a slow, sweeping gaze. "This is a lovely space," she said. "So much potential." We ate. She talked about market volatility, about estate planning, about cognitive decline in men my age. "It's not an insult," she said, laughing. She patted my arm. "It's biology. The paperwork part of the brain just fuzzes over." Elena nodded. "He does forget things sometimes." I did not forget things, but I said nothing. I cleared the plates. Maran produced a folder. It was crisp and blue. "I've drawn up a simple, durable power of attorney and a healthcare proxy, standard stuff, for peace of mind. Elena would be your agent, of course." I looked at the documents. The words were dense, small print. "Why do I need this?" I asked. "Everyone needs it," Maran said. Her tone was light, final. "If you get hit by a bus, we need to be able to help you. It's love, Robert, it's preparation." Elena's eyes were soft with concern. "Please, Robert, for me." I signed the papers. The pen felt heavy. That was the first document. The help expanded. Maran suggested consolidating our accounts. "For efficiency," she said. She opened new joint accounts with Elena and myself, and herself as a co-signatory, for oversight. My pension direct deposit was moved. My small investment portfolio was transferred, all to the new joint management. "It's just easier this way," Elena explained. "Maran can monitor everything, make sure we're getting the best returns." I received statements, but they were confusing now, full of fees and transfer notes. Maran said not to worry. It was normal rebalancing. Then came the credit cards. Mine were old, with low limits. Maran said they were insecure. She applied for new ones with higher limits, for household emergencies. The cards came. Elena kept them. "I'll just hold on to these," she said, "so they don't get lost." I found myself asking for money, for groceries, for a new pair of shoes. Elena would give me cash. She'd smile. "It's just easier to track," she'd say. I felt a slow narrowing, a quiet closing of doors. My name started to come off things. The utility bills, first the electricity, then the water, then the house deed. That was a shock. I found the paperwork in the filing cabinet. A new deed. It listed Elena and Maran with rights of survivorship. My name was not there. I asked Elena that evening. She was arranging flowers, peonies. She didn't look up. Oh, that, she said. Murran said it was a tax advantage, something about a trust. It doesn't change anything, you still live here. It's my house, I said, my voice was low. I bought it before we married. She put down the shears, she sighed. Robert, be reasonable, you're being difficult. This is what experts do. They optimize, you have to trust us. I went for a walk. The air was cool. I thought about the word difficult. It was a new word for her to use, for me. The first major betrayal was my grandson's wedding. My son, David, from my first marriage. He was getting married in Colorado. I had the invitation on the fridge for months. 2 weeks before the flight, Elena sat me down. I've been thinking, she said. That long flight, the altitude, your heart. Remember what Dr. Shields said about strain. Dr. Shields had mentioned caution. Once, years ago. I'm fine, I said. And the cost, she continued. With the market down, it's a terrible time for a big expense. Murran agrees. I stared at her. David is getting married. We'll send a magnificent gift, Elena said. She took my hand. We'll video call. He'll understand. Family understands. Murran arrived later. She backed Elena up. She talked about liquidity, about unnecessary travel risks. I was outnumbered. I was emotional. I did not go to my only son's wedding. I watched the pictures on social media. David in his suit. He looked happy. He looked confused in one photo, looking around, probably looking for me. I did not cry. I felt something go very still inside, a switch turning off. The narrative about me began to change. In front of friends, Elena would chuckle. Robert's memory isn't what it was, she'd say it fondly. He put the remote in the refrigerator yesterday. I had not done that. At family gatherings, Murran would steer conversation. She'd talk about age-related confusion. She mentioned gentle decline. She'd look at me with pity. My opinions were dismissed. That's sweet, Robert, they'd say, or you're confused about the details. They began talking about me in the third person, while I was in the room. He's doing so well considering, Elena would say to a guest. We're just trying to keep things simple for him, Murran would add. I felt myself becoming a ghost, a quiet, fatting presence in my own home. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was forgetting things. Maybe I was becoming a burden. That was their goal, I think, to make me doubt my own mind. The awakening did not come in a storm. It came in a silence. It was a Thursday. I was in the basement, looking for my old toolbox. I found a box of my late wife's things. My first wife, Sarah, David's mother. I hadn't opened it in years. Inside was a card, a birthday card she gave me, the year before she died. She had written, "To the steadiest man I know, your quiet strength is your power. Never let anyone make you think it's a weakness." I sat on the cold concrete floor. I read those words again and again. The fog in my mind began to clear. It was not confusion. It was systematic dismantling. I was not declining. I was being erased. That was the moment, the silent awakening. I made a decision. I would not confront. I would not argue. I would observe. I would document. I began a new routine. Every morning, after Elena left for the gallery, I would work. I was meticulous. I was patient. I created an email account with a password I had never used. I stored nothing on my home computer. I began requesting documents. I called the pension board. I said I needed duplicate statements for my records. They mailed them to a P.O. box I rented, under my name only. I called the county recorder's office. I requested the property records. The new deed was there, filed 6 months prior. It was not a trust. It was a simple quitclaim deed. I had signed it, buried in a stack of other papers. I photographed everything. I saved every email, every bank statement I could find. I found the credit card statements. Elena had left one in the office printer, charges for thousands, at luxury stores, in Miran's name. I photographed it. I started a log, a simple digital document, date, time, observation. March 14. Elena told David on phone I was too tired to talk. I was in the garden, feeling fine. April 3. Miran referred to my diminished capacity in email to lawyer, forwarded to my secret account. April 22. $12,000 transfer from joint account to Miran's business account, marked investment advisory fee. The evidence grew, line by line, page by page. I began to research, quietly, at the public library. I learned about financial elder abuse. I learned about undue influence. I learned about capacity assessments. I learned the law moved slowly. It required proof, not feelings, paper, not accusations. I found a lawyer, not a flashy one, a woman named Evelyn Moss. Her office was plain, her voice was calm. She specialized in probate and elder law. I brought my documentation to her on a USB drive. I showed her my log. She reviewed it for a long time. She looked up at me. "This is a textbook case," she said, "but it's also a dangerous one. They have a power of attorney. They control the assets. If they get wind of this, they could move faster. They could petition for guardianship." "What do I do?" I asked. "You keep documenting," she said. "You do not change your behavior. You give no sign. When we have everything, we move all at once, through the proper channels." "How long?" I asked. "As long as it takes," she said. "Patience is your weapon now." So I waited. I lived my quiet life. I played my part. I was the confused husband, the forgetful retiree. I nodded. I smiled vaguely. I let them think they had won. Meanwhile, I gathered more. I obtained a copy of the power of attorney document. I had my signature witnessed by a notary at the library, who confirmed I seemed perfectly competent. I got a full medical checkup at a clinic across town. I paid cash. I asked for a cognitive assessment. The doctor was thorough. He gave me a battery of tests. "Your cognition is excellent," he said. "Better than most men your age who told you otherwise." "Family," I said. He gave me a look of understanding. He wrote a detailed report. I scanned it. The months passed, a year. Elena and Miran grew more confident, more bold. They started talking about downsizing, about selling the house, moving me to a lovely managed community. They brought brochures. I looked at them. I said they looked nice. I knew time was running short. I met with Evelyn Moss again. We had 3 boxes of documentation now. "It's time," she said. "We file a petition to void the power of attorney. We file a civil suit for financial abuse. We file a Esterusc lus pendens on the property to prevent its sale, all simultaneously. They will be served at the same time." "What will happen?" I asked. "They will panic," she said. "They will lie. They will attack your competence. We will be ready." The paperwork was immense. Petitions, affidavits, financial analyses, exhibits. Ellen's team worked for weeks, preparing the filings. The day came. A process server delivered the packets. To Elena at the gallery, to Miran at her office, to their lawyer. The reaction was immediate. Elena came home. She was not smiling. She was pale with rage. "What is this?" she hissed. She threw the papers on the kitchen table. "This betrayal, after all we've done for you." I looked at her. I said nothing. "You are sick, Robert," she said. Her voice trembled, but not with sadness, with fury. "You are confused. This proves it. We will have you declared incompetent. You will be in a home by next week." I remained silent. "Say something," she shouted. I looked out the window, at the garden. I had pruned the roses that morning. "The papers speak for me," I said quietly. She left. She went to stay with Murran. The legal battle began. It was not dramatic. It was procedural. It was exhausting. Their lawyer painted me as a frail, paranoid old man. He submitted the power of attorney. He said I was a risk to myself. We submitted my medical report, my cognitive assessment, the notarized statement. We submitted the financial records, the transfers to Murran, the credit card abuses. They requested a competenza hearing. The court appointed a guardian ad litem, a neutral lawyer to evaluate me. Her name was Claudia Vance. She was sharp. She was skeptical of everyone. She came to my house. She interviewed me for 2 hours. She asked me about current events, about my finances, about my marriage. I answered calmly. I showed her my garden. I showed her my workshop. My tools still perfectly organized. She interviewed Elena and Murran separately. Later, she told Ullin that their story fell apart under specific questioning. Their timelines contradicted. Their motives became transparent. Claudia's report to the court was decisive. She found me fully competent. She found evidence of undue influence. She recommended the power of attorney be revoked immediately. The judge agreed to preliminary hearing. The financial suit proceeded. Murran was forced to produce all her records. Her own finances were subpoenaed. A forensic accountant was appointed by the court. He traced the money. It was not complicated. He found it. Over $200,000 diverted in fees, charges, and direct transfers. The house deed was challenged, based on fraud in the execution. The secondary attack came then, as Ullin predicted. Elena and Murran countersued for defamation, for emotional distress. They claimed I was abusive. They claimed I had hidden assets. They filed for a restraining order. It was a scattergun approach, meant to overwhelm me, to drain my resources. But I had only one resource: the truth and a good lawyer. We did not respond to the drama. We responded to the legal filings, point by point, with evidence. The restraining order was denied for lack of proof. The defamation suit was dismissed. At a hearing, the judge called it strategic litigation. A sanction was levied against their lawyer. The financial case ground on. Deposition dates were set. I was deposed first. It lasted 5 hours. Their lawyer asked me hundreds of questions, trying to find an inconsistency, a moment of confusion. I was consistent. I was calm. I referred to my records. Then Elena was deposed. She was not calm. She was haughty, then angry, then tearful. Her story changed. She could not explain the money. She could not explain the deed. She said it was all Murran's idea. Then she said it was for my own good. Then she said she was a victim too. The deposition transcript was damning. Murran's deposition was worse. She tried to use financial jargon to obfuscate. The forensic accountant was present. He corrected her, point by point. She invoked her Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination multiple times. That was the turning point. Her silence spoke louder than any admission. Their lawyer asked to settle. Ullin advised me to listen. The offer was this: they would quitclaim the house back to me, solely. They would repay the $200,000 plus my legal fees. They would sign a confidentiality agreement, no admission of guilt. I discussed it with Ullin. A trial will take 2 more years, she said. This is a clean, full recovery. It is a good outcome. I thought about it. I did not want their guilt admitted. I wanted my life back. I want the debt to be $300,000, I said. For the interest, for the wedding I missed, for the 2 years of my life. Ullin negotiated. They agreed, reluctantly. The settlement was drafted. It was thick. It specified every term. The signing was in a conference room. Alana and Murran were there with their new lawyer. They looked diminished. Their fine clothes seemed loose. They did not look at me. I signed my name, the same signature as on the forged documents, but this time I knew what I was signing. They signed. Murran's hand shook. It was over, in a quiet, paper-filled room. The money was wired. The deed was recorded, my name alone. The locks on my house were changed, that same day. The aftermath was not joyous. It was quiet. It was a long, slow exhale. I paid Alan. I donated a portion to a legal aid society for seniors. I called my son David. I told him the full story for the first time. He cried. He said he had felt something was wrong, but he didn't know how to intervene. He apologized. I told him not to. I went to visit him and his wife. I held my new granddaughter for a long time. I rebuilt my financial life, slowly, with new accounts, new advisors vetted by Alan. I took a trip to the mountains. I sat and looked at the silence. I did not feel triumphant. I felt tired. I felt clean, like after a long, hard rain. Alana and Murran faded from my world. I heard through mutual acquaintances. Murran lost her professional license. After the settlement, it was reported to the regulatory body. She moved to another state. Alana moved to a small apartment. She sold her art pieces. She lives quietly. I never spoke to either again. I still live in my house. I tend my garden. The roses are thriving. I think about trust. I think about how it can be weaponized, how kindness can be a disguise for theft, theft of dignity, theft of self. The law is slow. It is a plotting machine, but it is a machine that runs on evidence, on facts. That is its beauty. I provided the facts. The machine did the rest. My revenge was not a shout. It was a file folder. It was a timestamp. It was a line on a bank statement. It was silence and patience. I am at peace most days. But sometimes, in the evening, I look at the empty chair across from me. I think of the birthday card from Sarah, her words. I wonder one thing. If I had been truly frail, if my mind had actually been failing, what would have become of me? The quiet after the settlement was its own strange country. I had won back my house, my money, my name, but I could not win back the time, or the quiet erosion of trust that now lived in my bones. The house felt larger, emptier, full of ghosts of conversations that had been manipulations. I began the process of rebuilding, not just finances, but systems. My life had been managed, then weaponized. I needed to reclaim it piece by piece. I met with a new accountant, a man named Leo, recommended by Ellen Moss. His office smelled of coffee and paper. No cashmere, no talk of potential. He reviewed the settlement statements, the returned funds. He helped me set up new separate accounts, with alerts, with clear monthly statements mailed to me. Simplicity is security, Leo said. He was a man of few words. I appreciated that. I updated my will. I made David my executor. I created advance directives. I gave copies to him and to my lawyer. I filed one with my doctor. I was methodical. I was thorough. I left no door open for interpretation. David visited more often. He brought his wife, Chloe, and the baby, Lily. The house filled with the sound of laughter, of crying, of life. It was a balm. One afternoon, David helped me clean out the home office. Elena had taken her things, but remnants remained. Art gallery catalogs, expensive stationery. In the back of a filing cabinet drawer, we found a manila envelope. It was not labeled. Inside were photographs of my workshop, of my garden, close-up shots of my tools, of my prescription bottles on the bathroom counter, of me sitting in the backyard looking vacant. They were dated over a period of 18 months. They were clinical, like evidence for a case. Because that's what they were. David's face went pale. "Dad, what is this?" "Documentation," I said. My voice was flat. "For their guardianship petition. They were building a file to show I was neglecting my home, my health, that I was aimless." I sorted through them. A photo of an unwashed coffee cup. A photo of overgrown grass at the edge of the lawn. A photo of me asleep in my chair. It was intimate. It was a violation. It was the quietest form of espionage. I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the room's temperature. They had been watching me, not with care, but with a curator's eye, selecting moments of supposed decline. "We should burn them," David said, his jaw tight. "No," I said. I placed them back in the envelope. "They are evidence of the premeditation. I'll give them to Evelyn for her files, in case they ever try anything again." David looked at me with a mix of pride and sorrow. "You think they might?" "I think people who believe they are entitled rarely stop believing it," I said. "They just find new targets." This proved true. About 4 months after the settlement, I received a call from Evelyn. "A heads up," she said. Her tone was professional, but I heard an edge. "Marin has filed for bankruptcy in another state. She is attempting to discharge the settlement debt, claiming it was a personal loan, not restitution." I was quiet for a moment. "Can she do that?" "It's an aggressive move," Arlene said. "Often debts from fraud or willful injury are non-dischargeable, but she's trying to reclassify it. We will have to file a claim in her bankruptcy proceeding. To object, it will be more paperwork, more time." "Do it," I said. So another legal front opened. It was not a lawsuit against me. It was a procedural skirmish in a bankruptcy court hundreds of miles away. Arlene filed the objection. We submitted the settlement agreement, the judge's order, the underlying evidence of the financial tracing. It was a test of the settlement's strength, of its wording. The bankruptcy judge scheduled a hearing, a telephonic one. I dialed in from my kitchen table. I listened to Marin's lawyer argue. He called the debt unsecured. He called it a family dispute that resulted in a contractual repayment. Then Arlene spoke. She was concise. She cited the law. She quoted the settlement's own language, which stated the payment was restitution for funds obtained through undue influence and financial exploitation. The judge had questions. For Marin's lawyer, they were sharp. "Is your client asserting she did not engage in the conduct alleged?" the judge asked. "The settlement has no admission of liability," the lawyer parried. "That is not my question," the judge said. Her voice was cool. "The underlying petition alleged specific facts. Does your client under oath now deny those facts? Because if she does, we have a different issue. Potentially fraud on this court." There was a long silence on Marin's line. "My client asserts her Fifth Amendment privilege," the lawyer finally said. The judge was quiet. I could almost hear her disapproval through the phone. "The objection to discharge is sustained," she said. "The debt is non-dischargeable. Next case." The call ended. It had taken 12 minutes. Arlene called me back. "It's over. She still owes it. It will follow her. She can't wipe it clean." "Thank you," I said. That was the last I heard of Marin. The bankruptcy failed. The debt remained. I received a payment plan, small monthly sums. It was not about the money anymore. It was about the principle, the finality. Life settled into a new rhythm, a quiet, deliberate one. I took a class at the community college on local history. I made no close friends there, but I enjoyed the lectures, the act of learning something with no practical purpose. I began volunteering at the library, helping with their book sales sorting. It was peaceful, among the stacks of old books, the smell of paper and dust. One Wednesday, the library director, a woman named Joyce, asked to speak to me. She looked concerned. "Robert," she said, "a woman came in yesterday asking about you. She said she was an old friend, wanted to surprise you. I felt my pulse quicken, but my face remained calm. What did she look like? Joyce described Elaine. She's my ex-wife, I said. We are not in contact. If she comes again, please do not give her any information about me or my schedule. Joyce's eyes widened. She nodded. Of course, absolutely. I'm sorry I didn't know. It's fine, I said. Thank you for telling me. It was a probe, a feeler. I was sure of it. Elaine was checking my perimeter, seeing if my defenses were still up. I called Arlene. I told her. It's not illegal to ask about someone at a library, she said. But it's a sign. Document it. Date, time, what was said. Keep a record. If it escalates, we can consider a no-contact order. So I added it to my log. The log I still kept, out of habit, or perhaps out of the permanent awareness that had been etched into me. It did not escalate. Elaine did not return to the library. Perhaps Joyce's coolness warned her off. Perhaps it was just curiosity. The seasons turned. Lily took her first steps in my living room. David filmed it on his phone. I watched it later alone, dozens of times, the sheer ordinary joy of it. That winter, I received a formal letter from a law firm I did not recognize. My breath caught. For a second, the old dread returned. It was not a lawsuit. It was a notice. Elaine had filed for divorce. Finally, the petition cited irreconcilable differences. It was a mere formality. We had been separated for over 2 years. But it required response to finalize the dissolution of what was already dead. I sent it to Arlene. She handled it. A simple response. No contest. No claims against each other's property. The settlement had already divided everything. A month later, a judge signed the decree. My marriage was officially over. On paper. It felt like the last page of a long, sad book being turned. The finality was a relief. A deep, quiet relief. Spring came again. My second spring of true solitude. I was pruning the rose bushes when I saw a car slow down in front of my house. It was a sedan, unfamiliar. It did not stop. It drove on. I stood with my shears in my hand. I watched it disappear. I did not feel afraid. I felt observant, like a sentry on a quiet wall. I realized then that I would never fully relax again, not in the way I once had. The part of me that trusted implicitly was gone. It had been surgically removed by family. That was the permanent cost. Not the money, not the house, but the loss of that soft, inner certainty that the people closest to you are safe. I accepted it, as one accepts a stiff knee after an old injury. It was just part of my landscape now. I focused on what was present, on what was real, the feel of the soil, the weight of a book, the sound of my granddaughter's laugh. I had dinner with David and his family every other Sunday. Chloe was a good cook. She never asked prying questions. She just welcomed me. One Sunday, after Lily was in bed, David poured us both a drink. He looked at me, hesitating. "Dad," he said, "can I ask, are you lonely?" I considered the question. It was asked with love. "Sometimes," I said, "but loneliness is not the worst thing. The worst thing is being surrounded by people who make you feel alone. I prefer the quiet kind. It's honest." He nodded. He understood. "You know you can always sell the house," he said gently. "Move closer to us. There are good communities." "This is my home," I said. "They tried to take it, so I need to stay for a while longer to prove to myself that I can." He didn't argue. He just clinked his glass against mine. Another year passed. The monthly payments from Marin's bankruptcy plan arrived like clockwork. A small electronic transfer. I didn't spend it. I put it in a separate account for Lily's education. It felt right, turning their poison into something nourishing. I had a minor health scare. A fall in the garden. I sprained my wrist. I drove myself to urgent care. I called David afterward. I was fine. But it made me think about practicality, about real, not manufactured vulnerability. I researched, I hired a service, a local company that checked in on seniors, not a live-in aid, just a weekly visit, a friendly face, to change a LUT bulb, to help with heavy groceries. His name was Ben. He was young, earnest. I paid him fairly. I maintained clear boundaries. It was a choice, my choice, a layer of security that I controlled. One evening, I was looking through an old photo album, pictures of Sarah, of David as a boy, of my parents, a life before all this. I found a picture of Alana and me, from early on. We were at a beach. She was smiling. It looked real. I studied it for a long time, trying to find a hint, a shadow of what was to come. I saw none, just two people smiling in the sun. That was the truest horror, that it could be invisible until it was. I closed the album. I put it back on the shelf. The story of my betrayal is over. The legal battles are finished. The money is restored. The house is mine. The perpetrators are gone. I have won by every objective measure. Yet victory in such matters is not sweet. It is sober. It is the absence of a negative. It is getting back to zero. My life now is simple. It is ordered. It is mine. I wake, I make coffee, I read the paper. I work in the garden. I have dinner with my son's family. I volunteer, I sleep. It is a good life, a peaceful one. But in the deepest quiet of the night, a question sometimes forms. It is not a cry of anger. It is a whisper of wonder, the final, haunting reflection. The question is this: if love can be a disguise for such a slow, careful theft, how do you ever know what love truly is?